Hello, everybody, and welcome. We're excited you could join us today for this exciting past panel discussion, Diversity in Data. The session will be recorded, and you'll receive an email letting you know when the recording becomes available. I'm Lori Edwards, and I'll be hosting this discussion today, and I'm a past director at large. Before we get going, there's a little bit of housekeeping. If you require technical assistance or if you have any questions, please type them into the question pane located at the right side of your screen. Please note that there will be a short evaluation at the end of this session. There will be a pop-up in your web browser automatically after the session ends, and your feedback's really important to us for future events, so please take a moment to complete this. So I'll be introducing our panel members, and then they'll talk a little bit about themselves. Our panel members are Denisha Malone, Homer McEwen, and Patrick LeBlanc. You guys want to go ahead and talk a little bit about yourselves? Introduce yourselves.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Denisha Malone. I am a BI and administrator and consultant, primarily with Power BI, but I touch all BI tools. I am a Power BI SME, also known as the Power BI Queen, if you're familiar with me. I've been that since about 2015. Born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. Shout out to Memphis, University of Memphis graduate. Power BI is a hobby, as I mentioned, so it's a work for me and it's a hobby, but I enjoy getting out and mentoring and teaching people and helping people understand new tools. Outside of work, I also enjoy international travel, which isn't happening so much now, but I like it. I like to meditate and I enjoy reading. So, hi, welcome.
Thanks. Homer?
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Homer McEwen. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I am a graduate from the University of Georgia, BS in computer science. Been in the IT industry for, 25 years plus. I've been a DBA since 1997. That's database administrator. Currently working on my master's in computer science at Georgia Tech. Currently working at BCD Travel. As you know, travel has taken a hit. So that's okay. I'm furloughed, but I am also contracting right now and helping a company migrate their data from one data center to another. And I have 3 boys, and yeah, and I enjoy, one thing about me is I enjoy making music about data technologies, and I was fortunate enough to perform at various venues in Seattle at PASS Summit for at least 3 different trips. So a lot of fun doing that.
Patrick
LeBlanc. I am a program manager for Microsoft. I do a little YouTube on the side, just a little YouTube on the side. I've been doing IT for, I don't know how long I've been doing IT. I'm not as I don't keep up with dates as good as Homer does. Homer knows 25 years. I don't know, man. I think maybe I'm just getting mature for this time. But I've been doing IT for a bit. I was born and raised actually in Houston, Texas. I live in Atlanta now, and I don't know, man. I like data and I like talking to people. So it's Patrick.
Sounds good. So before we get going with this discussion, we're going to have a quick poll. So if you guys would answer that, just so we know who we're talking to, or part of who we're talking to.
Lori, the questions are grayed out for me. Not the questions, I'm sorry, but the answers.
Yeah. I'm sorry for the panelists.
The radio. Oh, gotcha. Sorry. Not
not that we don't care.
The radio buttons don't work for me.
Man, you 25 years in. You 25 years in. They don't have a number.
Hey man, I tell you what.
Wow. So most of the people are 10 plus years.
Wow.
Oh.
Well, we have some
There you
people
go.
that aren't in the industry and they're just here for the conversation, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
Some of Patrick's fans. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, right.
Exactly.
Popular guy.
Okay, well, are you ready to dig in to the
Yeah.
conversation?
Mhm.
So I'm going to do this in kind of a round robin fashion. When I was mentally practicing this, I kept saying red robin because apparently I want a hamburger, but
Yum.
fortunately I said it right. So Denisha, let's start with you.
Okay.
Could you talk about your experiences as a Black person in the tech industry, including experiences at industry conferences and past events?
Yeah, so my experience, I feel, especially with being as the Black woman, it's a little different. When I was in college, I made it a effort to make sure that I had a different experience in corporate role. So right now, I took that extra step in school to ensure that I wouldn't fall under the imposter syndrome because I knew a lot about that. Being a woman, really, not really being, I didn't really consider it as being a Black person until actually getting in the field. But college did prepare me for dealing with the corporate role, a role that wasn't made for my skin color. So it took a lot of self-confidence, and I realized that the more confident you are with being a Black person and having your knowledge and just knowing that you're smart and you belong here, then the more you practice that, then the better you are. So I did that a lot just in college. So I had a lot more internships than normal. You know, I did take a lot, I guess, a bigger effort than the average person. I challenged organizations, so I pushed myself to leadership positions even when it was uncomfortable. And I also seek Black mentors. I think that's rare in our community. And because of that, I seeked out those mentors, which was still really hard. I have a lot of white mentors, which is just easier to find. But I did take that effort, and that's just my experience personally. So actually working in the corporate field, kind of transitioning out of college, I am the only Black female in my entire company. So I take that as a blessing and also a lesson. So it's teaching me how I can be more confident and what I need to do to make sure I'm seen and I'm heard. So I've never really seen it as a challenge in my current work because I work at DB Best and they support everything I want to do personally and professionally. So it's become an ease of transition into, I guess, coming from Memphis, where it's all Black people mostly, and then going into a corporate role where it's mainly white professionals, especially in the higher positions, especially not women. So you don't see us a lot. Um, I do get a non-HR perspective because I'm not HR, but I understand the struggle in hiring Black professionals. Just being the only Black person in my job is hard. You know, I do advocate to get more of us, but that is difficult. So I spend a lot of my time just, I wouldn't say proving my worth, but showing that I can, so I can also bring in a friend, and my company would trust that that friend would work just as hard because I'm a hard worker. Which it shouldn't always have to be that way, but you know, my experience shows that that's just how it works. You know, they look at you and they look at how you're working. So if you bring someone in that looks like you, then they would, you know, they would relate those two. So that's really my experience when I'm in meetings because I am a consultant. I do deal with a lot of C-level employees, and I'm usually the only female. I always go to the being the only female before I'm being the only Black person because there are Black men in the tech industry. Just I feel like it's special for me to be here because I'm the only Black woman, so I have to speak on us as my stance. But with that, I have to speak with more confidence. Whenever I'm talking in a room or in a meeting, I have to speak with confidence and I have to be comfortable in trusting myself with what I'm saying so others can trust me too. So that's just my experience. And I'm right now, I'm okay with that and I'm living with it. But I do understand that that's an extra step for me.
Homer, Patrick, do you have anything to add?
Sure thing. Denisha, wow, she hit it right on the head with the imposter syndrome. There's so many psychological layers to it, and that's definitely one of them when we question our worth should we be here? What, are they going to figure me out type of thing? Am I as good as, my counterparts? But just to go back to your initial question, my experience being in IT as a Black person, well, I mean, there's so many different experiences, right? But I will say that going back to college, I remember talking with my friends, as a freshman, you ask, so what are you majoring in? What's your major? And I would tell my friends computer science back in 1988, I'll tell you, I don't care. And they would all look at me with a weird face, like, computer science, you can actually major in that? That's not a major. And they laughed at me. But, I would look around and I would be the only Black person in my computer science class. And I did seek out a few upperclassmen that looked like me that happened to be Black, just to get their perspective, in Georgia, the University of Georgia, in the computer science program, which helped me to give me that confidence boost to know that I can do it. So in the workplace, it just depends. I mean, I've had good experiences, and the good outweighs. I will say that. I do remember a friend at a big organization I worked for. He said, "Hey man, you really broke the color barrier with the DBA position. How'd you do that?" I was like, "Oh dang, I am one of very few Blacks in that department." And you start to question, should I work harder than this person? And like Denisha was saying, you want to present yourself like, hey, I can do this, even though there aren't many that look like me around, which it really shouldn't have to be like that. But it all stems from a systemic racial divide that happened a long time ago, and it's all about cause and effect. And so you experience that. And I haven't had really any bad experiences. I did have someone in management who he prejudged people, and on the good side and the bad side. I mean, he thought certain people of cultural backgrounds were smarter than others, and that's not right to do that. And that he got, anyway, that's another long story. A nice guy, but just his morals and his upbringing, people, you're a product of your environment, right? And so
That's right.
things just happen. But at events, and I'll speak on past, so really enjoyed it, met a lot of people, networked. It was a great experience. I've been to 2 past Summit events, a SQL Saturday event in Redmond, and there aren't as many Black people. I don't think it's, how can I say this? I think that it's all about opportunity and exposure, and it starts in corporations. And we'll touch on that later. I know you didn't. I know we'll probably talk about that later, but I think it really just starts with inclusion at the corporate level. But I don't know the numbers, but I'm assuming that the majority of past tickets are sponsored by corporations, not people coming out of their pockets. I would assume. I don't know, and that's an opportunity that could be looked at from that perspective. And I mean, you see different things, and you know that you're a minority in this particular tech industry, and you just try to give your all and do the best. And there are circumstances where you feel like you are more qualified, and there are circumstances where it is revealed that you feel like you're a quota hire, or people think you're a quota hire. They throw that around and think that you're just there to fill a quota or some type of mandated program that they had to fill and whatnot. But it's been an interesting journey, and I see it getting better. This generation today, my boys have been on computers since before they could talk. So it's a lot different from when we were growing up. So things are different, but there's a lot of room for improvement as far as diversity and inclusion, especially with, and I'm speaking for Georgia, but I'm sure I'll say Black people in general in America. Okay, I'm done for now.
Can I say something, Laura?
Of course, you can say
So,
whatever.
Laura, Homer and Denisha made me think of something. When I in the IT industry, I can recall going to a consultant engagement, and I was with other colleagues at the same company. And we walked into the room, and I'm the tech guy. That's what I mean, Laura, you and I have been knowing each other, I don't know how long. And so we go in the room, and I'm there to do the presentation about how we're gonna set up a SharePoint infrastructure with analysis services, all the pieces, right? And so I'm setting my laptop up, and there's a conversation going on in the back of the room, and somebody in the one of my colleagues is with me. He's like, yeah, they prefer that you not do the presentation. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, there's nobody else here qualified to do that presentation with us besides me. And so we all left, right? We all left when that happened. But it's a very large university that this happened at, and up until that point in my career, I had never, and this is not too long ago, I had never experienced anything like that. And it shook me a little bit, because when we were driving away, one of the guys in the car said, Patrick, I don't know how you do it. And I started thinking to myself, I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, most of the times, everywhere we go, every conference we go to, every room we walk into, you're the only Black person in the room. And he goes, but you would never know by the way you handle yourself and the way you do things. You know, when you hit the room, when you hit the stage, when you do your job, whatever it is you're doing. And I told him this, and I'm sure Homer and Denisha can attest to this, because I talk to a lot of other Black people about this. We have to be the best actors in the world to succeed at what we do. And it's not that we're being phony or not being original. It's that we have to be chameleons. We have to be able to fit into any place, anytime, anywhere, any point. We have to be able to just blend in like we belong there. So the confidence that we exude, has to be 1,000% more than the confidence that our white counterpart exudes. Because if I show at any moment, if I'm not sure of myself or I lack that confidence, I'm immediately discounted. I'm immediately discounted of who I am, and regardless of how technical I am. I have a master's degree in information systems, right? I have a bachelor's degree in economics. Doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. I was a SQL Server MVP. I've written 5 books on SQL Server. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, because the moment I waver in how good I am, just another Black guy. Just another Black guy, right? And they fit me into the stereotype that they think we all are, right? Lazy, inefficient, on welfare. That's how they look at us all. But the harsh reality is, right? I have a son upstairs who told me, and I was telling Homer this, he was like, Dad, I got 900,000 followers on TikTok. I was like, what? How do you get 900,000 followers, right? We are breathing a new generation of Black people. And I think it's on us to break the stereotype, and we are working on breaking that stereotype. So anyway.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah.
So Homer, what do you think contributes to the lack of Black people in the tech industry?
Hey, so, sorry, turning that down. That's a loaded question. Great question, Lori. I think that, there is a foundation. I won't get into details of, the redlining of housing and the dual job markets and the, how, Black people have had obstacles to deal with. But I think that there was, and I'm only speaking from my experience. I don't think in my little bubble growing up, and there are probably similar experiences everywhere. My family and friends that I grew up with just weren't privy to the internet being developed in the 70s, or having computers. and things like that. And because they were trying to survive, or just, you know, dealing with not being able to get certain loans and having to be, you know, live in certain areas because there were government laws that said we promise not to not to let Black people live in your neighborhood. So there were a lot of things going on in the South that stem from that. But just moving towards today, and these are just my opinions and observations, I think that it stems from, you said tech, not just conferences, right, Lori? Just tech in general, right?
Yeah, I said tech in general. But if you want to talk about
Yeah.
conferences, please do.
And I think it's, you slowly but surely seeing more diversity, but you know, in Silicon Valley, it's no secret that there was a good old boy network going on. And just recently in 2014, Google released their diversity statistics, which were staggering, 60% white, 1% Black. And so other companies have followed suit. And it's just something I read. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if that's true or not, but it just made other companies, and that was just 2014, to open up to, understand that there should be more inclusion. I know as humans, people tend to want to hire people who look like them, maybe, and that's probably a human trait. Or pull, somebody, give somebody an opportunity, a friend, a family member, somebody that they know, and this and that and the other. And those opportunities have to, come to these young college graduates. Maybe they're lucky enough to get to intern or co-op somewhere, but if not, how are they going to get these jobs? And there's so many other examples. You rarely hear Black people talk about, I'm at a loss for words. What is it when you get money when your parents die? Inheritance.
Inheritance, yeah.
What is that? So, and it all stems from being able to use your home that has, the equity has grown from it as as leverage to do better in this and other that a lot of Black people didn't afford. So anyway, my point is there were a lot of things in the past, cause and effect, that lead up to that. Privatization of prisons, targeting the lower income people, majority Black, and causing a lot of issues from that. And so, the war on drugs thing, we can go deep into that if we wanted to. But I think that it's just all about opportunity and exposure. I was lucky enough to have both of my parents went to college, and my mother was a school teacher. My daddy was an architect, and my mother, she brought computers home during the summer, an Apple IIe computer. Oh, what's that? Oh, this looks fun. I want to play. Atari came out while I was 9 years old with Pong. I was so interested in that. And from there, she saw my interest. So she bought me a Commodore 64, which I was so into. And she bought me magazines that I could code. Oh, I can make my name pop on the screen. What? What? And coincidentally, my high school started a magnet program when I was in the 9th grade, the first year, Center for Applied Technology, which centered around computers, where we took basic and AP Pascal classes, and I was showing the teachers things because I was already coding, and I was an anomaly in my family doing that. What's Homer tinkering with these computers? Even in '93, when I saved up my money after I graduated from college to buy my first 486 computer, it's IBM compatible, guys. I have 4 meg of memory. That thing had 100. I bought a 4 meg stick for about $170 back in '93 because I wanted not 8 meg of memory. 4 meg. I wanted 8 meg. But anyway, my point is, my parents were like, "Why are you getting a computer? That's too much money." And now they're on computers every day. So times change, things change. Why are we not seeing as many Black people in tech? I think that will change over time once we break down the stereotypes and prejudgment of people, because like Denisha was saying, she has to put on this great reputation in order to reference a friend so that they would, hold her accountable. Oh, well, Denisha has, if Denisha wouldn't refer someone who's not as good as she is. So, you know what I mean? So you have to, there's so many layers to it that I know we can't answer in one shot, but I think it will get better over time if we start having these diversity discussions and inclusion discussions in the corporate workspace.
Yeah.
Denisha and Patrick, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I want to, so Homer hit it on the nail, but I wanted to expand on the, I guess the gatekeeping ideology where, okay, so IT industries, I think they lean more on hiring people they know. So on personal relationships, so if you have a personal relationship with someone who's already in the industry, then it's easier to get in the industry. It's easier to get those opportunities. So as we all know, IT companies are about 90, they're a high percentage of white people. And if they're referring their friends to apply and their friends look like them, act like them, dress like them, speak like them, then it becomes a pattern. So you keep giving the same people that come into the corporate industries, and it becomes like a gatekeeping thing that's happening. And so that's just, it may be, I'm always optimistic. So I think a lot of corporations out there don't do these things on purpose. They just already have they just already have people that are working with them and they need to hire someone. So they ask for a reference. It's just a pattern that happens. So once we break that pattern, once we have these discussions like Homer mentioned, or maybe corporations create some kind of system where they're reaching out to HBCUs, just expand the opportunity for Black professionals to just see the corporate role and look at and see the opportunities and, and apply and have equal application processes. I think that would change. Also, mentoring within corporations. If you get hired in a corporation and there's a higher, someone that's in a higher position as you, most of the time, those people are in higher positions. If they want to mentor someone, they're going to mentor someone who looks like them or reminds them of themselves, maybe. And so, and that's usually not a Black person. If that person's a white professional, and especially if they're older and used to pre-civil rights and all that. So that's difficult, So I think my mentors are white women. I have my great job from a white woman. So, but she saw herself in me. So the same thing, but it was just a different situation. But now that I'm in the industry, I see a lot of Black people, and I find Black students that I can mentor just for that same reason, because I know how hard it is to find a job, because IT, you have to know people. Like, that's just like out of all industries, I think the networking aspect is so important in IT, just for getting a job and moving up the ladder. So, and that's the primary struggle with us and getting and advancing in the career.
Patrick, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Everything they said, right? Everything they said, but we have to, at some point, put it on ourselves. We do at some point have to put it on ourselves, because I could think about my career path, and it's ambition. You have to have a level of ambition yourself, because like Denisha said, right, there's these gatekeepers. There's possibly gatekeepers. Like Homer said, when I grew up, my mom, didn't graduate high school. I didn't have computers, but I had my own interests and I had my own ambition. And so if you look at the past conference, I think the last one I went to, I met the most Black people there that I've ever met in my life. And I think it was less than 10 people, but I remember the first past conference I went to, nobody in the organization, like, why are you going to a past conference? I was like, well, I want to go learn more about SQL Server, and I can think about a couple of the Black guys that I knew, and they were like, I'm not gonna waste my time going there, And so we have to, and I asked my wife right before this call, I was like, how do we get more Black people in tech? She said, she pointed at me. She pointed at me, and I was like, what do you mean? Why are you pointing at me? I'm already in tech. She goes, that's the problem right there. She said, you're the problem, Patrick. you're selfish, you're egotistical, you only think about Patrick. And I was like, oh, who else is there to think about, besides the 3 little people in my house? And she said, you need to shoulder some of this, because I hear you all the time saying, oh man, I went to this conference. At work, I'm the only Black guy. Well, get some more Black guys. I'm sure there's other Black guys or Black women that would love to work with you, that would love to do things with you, that would love to present at SQL Saturdays. Find one, find 2, and ask them, say, hey, especially right now, there's a lot of people furloughed. There's a lot of people out of work. Say, hey, I'm working on a project. I can't pay you much, but do you want to come and learn some Power BI? Do you want to come learn some SQL? Does that hurt you, Patrick, to do anything like that? And I was like, she's right. She's absolutely right. So we shoulder some of the blame. We have to shoulder some of the blame of this, because we get to the level, right? We get to that level and we go, I work for Microsoft. I got the YouTube. I'm kind of a big deal. I do all this stuff, and I forget about where I came from and the struggle that it took for me to get where I'm at today. And I think while there's other oppressors that's stopping us to get where we need to go, we got to shoulder some of this, and we have to start giving back, and we got to start pulling some people. We got to start not asking them, we got to start pulling them along with us to change the dynamic of the past conference. There's only 10 Black guys. Well, Patrick, it's your fault. There's only 10 Black guys, because 6 months before the past conference was coming up, you knew you were speaking, you knew you were going. Why didn't you post some stuff on Twitter or Facebook and say, hey guys, I'm going to the past conference. What about, are there any other Black guys interested, thinking about it? Maybe I can work with past, maybe you can't afford it. Maybe there's some things we can do to get you guys there. So everything they said, plus we have to take some responsibility on this also.
Yeah, that's a great point. Patrick, so
Yeah.
you touched on this, you touched on one thing earlier, but can you tell us some problematic areas or key challenges that you've come into contact with in this industry? You already talked about people not wanting you to present, which is insane, but
Yeah. So I remember back in, I was working for a little consulting company, and I was invited to speak at a Microsoft event at the Microsoft office in Missouri. And it's me and a white woman and an Indian guy. And we show up to the event. It's hundreds of, this room is standing room only, because we're talking about SQL Server integration services. It's just new, and it was exciting thing. No more DTS, and we go in the room, and
No more DTS.
no more DTS, and we're setting up. I'm like setting my laptop up at the podium, and this guy walks up to me, white guy, and he goes, "Oh, you must be the what's the person that does all, the AV guy. My Wi-Fi is not working. Could you run?" He said, "Could you run to the front desk and find out why the Wi-Fi is not working?" And I looked up at him, and the lady who was with me, she goes, "That's the presenter for today." Excuse me, like that. And he kind of had a look, and so unfortunately, no matter how much, Lori is acceptable of Patrick, or doesn't care that Patrick is, who Patrick is, Black, as much as it doesn't matter, there's so many people in the world that doesn't see it that way, unfortunately. And I don't know when it's going to change, how it can change, because like I think Homer said this, you are taught who you are going to be at home. You know what I mean? And so that's one thing. And then my first job in IT, I built an access database application for all the underwriters to use at this company. And I was an underwriter. I was a mortgage underwriter. And the CEO said, "Hey, we need to get this implemented for all the underwriters." So I started talking to the guys in IT, all white guys in IT. And the CEO was like, "Patrick, you should apply to IT." I only had a bachelor's degree in economics at the time. And the guy came back and was like, "Oh no, we can't hire him. We can't hire him. He's underqualified to do any type of IT work." And lo and behold, we knew what the truth was. We found out and he got fired. The CEO apologized, and you know, it was because I was Black, right? And I was living in Louisiana at the time, way down south. So we know how, you know, racism works way down south. But the world has to get past this. Once they get past this and realize that we are more than just the color, we're just as smart, we're just as capable, you know, I can read, you know, and I can learn just about anything I want. I can do just about anything I set my mind to. Once the world gets past that, that's the only way we'll get past these problems. It's not Lori, it's not Patrick, it's not Homer, it's not the people watching the webcast, it's the entire world. And so, two big things, right? Two big things. They gotta, well, actually one, they gotta get past all this melanin that's in my face. I'm the nicest guy you'll ever meet. I'm the nicest guy you'll ever meet. Maybe besides Homer. Maybe besides Homer.
Denisha, Homer, do you have anything to add there? I mean, I'm sure.
Well,
that you
yeah,
are.
I keep it kind of short. I just, when you mentioned that question, two words, I guess phrases came to my mind. One word, neurodiversity, and work inclusion, like workplace inclusion. So I think neurodiversity is just the understanding that everyone thinks differently and value the fact that everybody's thinking differently. So I think once in a corporate role, I think socially people kind of understand that a little bit, but professionally, that's a little bit, yeah, a little bit, but more than professionally. Professionally, neurodiversity is still a problem. I feel like it's a struggle for people to understand that as a Black person, I think differently. Like we all think differently, but we just have a diverse way of thinking because of how our past is, what we've experienced. So just what we think is different, the way we move is different. The whole idea that we have to move with more confidence, I don't think that's going to end. I think Black people in general are just going to be a little bit more confident in themselves. They're going to walk with a little bit, a little straighter in places that have a lot of white people. That's just something that's just how we've been put. Like this is what we're used to. So just understanding that that's how we think and implying that in corporations. I think having that word neurodiversity in places where people can see it and read it and understand what it means, that will just make a shift. And the second thing was workplace inclusion. So this is something that's just can't happen. So it comes with discussions, it comes with intention. So you have to intentionally have that workplace inclusion in your corporate environments. And this is just it'll allow for everyone to feel included. So doing different things where to show that the environment understands diversity and inclusion, just having those events or discussions or whatever you want it to be, that'll change the ideal of a lot of things that's happening right now in the corporate environment.
Sorry, I was on mute because my cat is meowing. Homer, do you mind if I wanted to move a little bit towards what are some of the things we can do to help change how we're moving forward? Do you mind if I hit you with a question on that?
Sure thing. No problem at all. I think, oh, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, do you have any lessons that you can share about how you've overcome some of these obstacles?
That's a great question. I think just being myself and like Patrick said, he's a good guy. And it's funny, you try to, you put the room at ease, even though you have to act. I mean, everyone acts a little bit in public. But you definitely want to kind of diffuse any potential prejudgmental prejudices that may be in the room. You just don't know, right? You can't tell. But you just have to be on guard for that. I had two good friends at a big company I worked for, and they were from East India. And on two different occasions in our discussion, open, candid, cultural differences about all kinds of things, y'all. It was crazy. Fun, interesting discussions. And what came from both of them at two different times and this was back in, I don't know, early 2000s, whatever. One of them said that when they told their family and friends they were moving to Atlanta, Georgia, particularly, they tried to encourage them not to. They said, look, Black people in the South are an oppressed people, and they are a violent, mean people because of their past. And you don't want to be in the mix of all of that because you may get hurt. Black people are mean. Black people are violent. And it's not their fault. It's just because of the oppression that they've experienced for 400 years now. And we want to encourage you to think about moving somewhere else. On 2 different occasions, they told me this. And I'm like, wow, that's the perception. So what do you think? Well, we came here and, you know, we met people like you, and it's not like that at all. I said, well, you know, everywhere you go, there are going to be pockets of places you have to be careful, and they're dangerous places. And I say all that to say that there are pre-judgmental psyches on people, and it's not just white, Black, Latino, Asian, it's everybody. For example, a friend of mine, she's the manager at a big company, and this is something that can happen to help with inclusion and diversity, but they played a few games, if you will, and where she put labels on the back of her employees. They didn't know what it was. One label on, could have been a guy, it said dumb blonde, okay? Another label said Bambi killer. I don't know, for people who are against people who hunt deer, I guess. Another one said dumb jock. So all these people had these labels on their back, but they didn't know. And people were treating them accordingly to their label without getting to know them. I mean, it was an exercise to just show how the human psyche works and whatnot, but it exposed a lot of things about a lot of people and the way they treated people, because the people didn't know why they were being treated certain ways. They didn't know their label. They couldn't know the label for the exercise. And I say all that to say that I think if corporations had programs for diversity, I took a Dale Carnegie course once, which was a step in the right direction, because once we left that particular program at this job, we all felt kindred brotherhood we all felt like we went through something together. So no matter what the background, we felt a connection, and it opened up. There was a guy who explained and told the whole story of how he escaped North Korea as a 4-year-old. And the last time he saw his dad is when he pushed the boat away so his family can escape. And so just stories like that. And I probably would have never spoken to this guy had we not been in this class, to get to know who he was and where he came from, and just all kinds of stories like that. You get to know a person for who they are. So you mentioned obstacles and how can we overcome them. I think just programs and corporations that allow people to get to know them, just not on a professional level, but just to see that, you know, they are people. Just like differences create barriers, but you'll find in people there are more similarities than there are differences. How many people have parents that divorced at a young age? Oh, okay, I didn't know that. You know, how many people, I mean, there are so many different commonalities between people, opposed to these differences that bring up these barriers. Oh, you think this way or you think that way, I guess I shouldn't deal with you. And that's not the case. You know, you can have somebody on the different political spectrum that's a great person that'll give the shirt off their back for you. They just have these different ideals, right? But
Yeah,
just in time, I think.
That's why conversations like this are so important. Denisha, I had a quick question for you, and this actually came from the audience. What advice would you give to young Black and men and women who are coming into the industry?
I would give them advice to, find someone to understand the industry, someone who's already in the industry, preferably someone Black, but that's not always the case. You know, just find someone there who you can look up to and understand what's happening already, so you can be more fit for the position, because I feel like if you go in it alone, which a lot of us do, then it's harder to understand the environment, the atmosphere, and honestly to grow. Also, really important. I don't know why I didn't mention this first, but get involved in Black organizations. There are Black tech organizations. I am on the nonprofit board of 3 of them. So I feel like if you can, and I think that's just, there's so many of them and they're full of Black tech people. It's a Black tech organization. So the Black Data Processing Associates, Black Girls Code, the National Society of Black Engineers. There's just so many of them. So get involved in those. And within those organizations, there are a lot of older professionals who are who have good jobs and have already experienced these things that you're about to experience as a young professional. So get involved, find a mentor, and work hard. Like, work hard in your profession. You know, always skill up. That's what we call it at DB Best. So get better at what you're doing. You know, you can't think that you're gonna get in and you're gonna get carried. Nobody's gonna carry you. So you have to make sure that you have those skills to back yourself up. You're always becoming smarter, and continue to meet new people. Don't be shy.
That's great. Thank you, Denisha. Patrick, I had a question for you. How do you think leadership teams impact inclusivity within a company, and what's the responsibility of leadership to make inclusive work cultures?
I think it should be a top priority for them. It should be a top priority for leadership to, foster diversity. Is it? I don't think it is, because I think Danisha said it the best, is they hire who they know. And we know in leadership today, there's not a lot of Black people in leadership, in senior leadership today. So, a leadership position opens, let's call such and such, because that person, I know him, and I think once there's a responsibility taken by senior leadership to make more of a concerted effort to ensure that we have a larger diversity, amongst the senior leadership population, I think it'll just happen. But how do you make that happen, Lori? How do I change that? How does Lori change that? It's kind of difficult right now. I think about the leadership, where I work now, and there's a few, and you can see, and Microsoft is working really hard. They sent a huge email out about, hey, we're going to make this effort. And honestly, my manager, he and I talk about this on a regular basis. Is like, what can we do? How can we help you, move up in your career? And so, but it's not just every organization has to make that effort. So they have to work at it. They're the priority. I think they're the gatekeepers, like Danisha said.
So Homer, this is a question. We all know that, the majority of people in the tech industry look more like me. Maybe not women as much, but still. What are some things that we can do? We hear a lot about being an ally and being a more proactive ally. So what are some things people like me could do to help?
A great question. I think that if you see something wrong, don't be afraid to speak up. A lot of times people feel maybe they're jeopardizing friendships or jobs. But if you see something that's just not right, speak up. If, somebody's at the water cooler and making a improper, racial joke, let them know I'm uncomfortable with that. That's not cool. I don't like that. That's not funny. It might be funny, but it's not funny. You know what I mean? It's not like, no, we don't do that. So, just speaking up more and just showing them that hate shouldn't win. And it's all about fear, and it's all about not, feeling, like they're not going to get what they feel as though they deserve. But I think it's just, here's an analogy I saw on someone's Instagram, and it was a cartoon. It was a Black guy and a white guy, and they were looking up at a ledge. So the Black guy, puts his hands down and helps the white guy up, and the white guy climbs on his hands, on his back, gets on the ledge. Phew, And then the black guy's holding his hand up. And then the white guy says, I got up here on my own. Why can't you get up here on your own? Well, you had a head start. You had help. I mean, the analogy goes, you know, there's a big head start in economics and just all kinds of things, education, economics, that, you know, Black people shouldn't be condemned for having a Black History Month. Some people don't like that for whatever reason. They say, why isn't there a White History Month? Well, there's a lot of history that's not being told. A lot of people don't know what Juneteenth was. A lot of people don't know. So we have to encourage and to educate. But going back to what you said, I think just doing your part by doing things like this. And like Patrick said, you know, we do, like myself, I know this is a cliche, but I remember I said to myself this morning, this could be the start of something. I should do more of these panels. I should mentor. I should let younger kids in college know that they can do this, you know, and through my music, I do that kind of, but I could do more by stepping out and letting them know, you know, maybe consulting or doing something more with diversity to say, hey, you can code too, you know, you can compile a program, you can learn Python, you can learn PHP, you can learn networking and cyber security, you can do it, you know. I'm being an example for my kids, but I definitely want to do that for another generation that may not be exposed to these things. I own a home, a townhome that I still own. I moved out of. Make a long story short, there was a Katrina evacuee that lived that lived a great tenant. First time being a landlord, but I had to take training, and in this training, they talked about how there's no more such thing as Section 8. There's no more such thing as just, you know, giving a voucher and government assistance to a group of people who live in a certain area. They allow you to pick your own place, to try to break up that mindset of only living in one place, so that, you know, you can live amongst people and your kids can live amongst people who don't have that mindset of, you know, the government can help me and I'll just get money from them to live, as opposed to, you know, if you live amongst a whole bunch of people who have that going on, I mean, that's your environment, and you're only, you know, you're a product of your environment. You only know what you're exposed to. And I say all that to say that I got off on a tangent, sorry guys, but I think that just not standing for things and speaking up and not being afraid to say, hey, why are you calling the police on this guy? He's just, you know, he's just checking out the neighborhood. He thinks it looks nice. He may want to live here. Why are you calling the police? You know, and not being afraid to say, no, that's not right, when you see anything that's oppressive against anybody, whether, you know, sex, religion, ethnicities, and this and that and other. Yeah, so there you go.
Perfect, thank you. Denisha, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to add, thanks for asking. I wanted to say really quickly that praise in the workplace is underrated. I think it's really underrated. And this is really because I think it's just, you know, people think in the corporate world, you're supposed to be serious, you know, you can't tell anybody they did a good job. I don't know, but I think it's underrated. So I think if we tell each other, you know, you're doing a good job, you can say thank you in emails. It's okay to say thank you in emails, you know, do those things that make someone feel good. You know, I feel like as a Black person, we do extra work. We have to go the extra mile to make it feel like we actually made a difference. So having our counterparts to actually praise or show us that they appreciate, then not all the time, don't go overboard, because then it gets weird, but just every now and then, just, you know, to let them know that they're doing a good job, and even to your white counterparts, because everyone needs a pat on the back, you know. So yeah, I just think it's a little underrated. So just think about that, everyone out there, think about that.
I think you've done an amazing job today.
Thank you.
Patrick, do you have anything to add? We have a couple minutes left.
So I think we just need to, as Black people, we need to make our circles bigger. And I think everybody said this, right? We tend to keep our circles small, tight. My circle is honestly, especially these days, it's really small. It's just me and this other guy that I do YouTube with these days. And so the honestly, the way that I have succeeded in this industry is not just saying, hey, I'm going to associate myself with Black people. It's a tough one because that's who I grew up with. When I went to high school, there was no white people there. My graduating class with 500 people was 500 Black people that graduated, right? I did not encounter white people until I went to college, and I was the only Black person in my first English 101 class, and everybody else was white. And I was blown away, you know? I was afraid, I cried, I wanted to go home, I was terrified. But after I made it through a couple of weeks, and I go, well, shoot, these people, they're not that bad. They just like me, you know? And a lot of them were like, hey, Patrick, you want to study? You want to go here? And I was like, oh man, these people are great. And you start growing your circle, right? You start growing your circle as a person. Wow, I wish I could, you know, get every Black person that I know and say, hey, you should do tech, because there is I've made a great career and a great place for my family in tech. My kids are doing great. You know, we don't need anything. Everything we need, we have, and it's because of tech. You know, and I think by making our circle bigger and making the future generations realize that, man, you can make. And I get up every morning to go to work because I need to go to work because I need to make money, because at the end of the day, we need money to live. And if you teach them, hey, you can make a great living in IT, and everybody's smiling because they know I'm not lying. You can make a great living and you can provide a great, you know, great life for your family in IT. So if we can do those things, make our circles bigger and make the future generations realize, hey man, you can have a good life, you know, tic-tacking on a computer all day, because that's what I do. I sit in my chair, I tic-tac on a computer, make some videos, and I have a great life. You know, there's all the noise going on, but nothing to complain about. Nothing to complain about.
I want to thank all of you guys for participating in this, and I hope it's not the last one. It's been a great conversation, and I hope that we've had about 92 people on the call, so I hope that we've been able to reach out to everybody and provide some information. So anyway, I wanted to thank you all for your time today. I know everybody's really busy, but thanks so much. It was needed.
All right. Thank you for having us, Lori.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And thanks,
thank you so
Paz.
much,
Thank you,
Lori.
Paz, for putting this together. Yeah.
Yeah. Now one day we'll all see each other in person.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah.
One day we'll go to SQL Saturdays and we'll go to a summit. So that'll be
Yes. You remember though? You remember when we did that?
yeah. I mean, we'll be able to get together virtually, but hold on just a second. So anyway, I wanted to thank you, and hopefully we can do this again. And we are going to be having a more diversity and inclusion discussions.
Awesome.
And so hopefully you can take part.
Yeah.
Yes.
Happy to.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
you all have a good rest of your day.
All right.
And thank you to everyone who took part in listening to this, and make sure that you answer the poll at the end, just so that we can get some good feedback and do these again. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
All
All right. Thank
Bye.
you. All right.
Do we stay here?
All right.
Do we leave?
I know